I spent over 100 hours in Blender to see if a normal guy like me can go from complete beginner all the way to expert in just 30 days. But what is Blender?
Blenders have many functions, including... What?
Despite what Google's AI will tell you, Blender is actually a software packed with an array of powerful tools capable of modeling, animation, visual effects, 2D drawing, simulations, and even this. That's nice. That's really nice. And seeing as how I've never modeled or done anything in 3D before, we're gonna need a plan designed to push me to my absolute limits. This roadmap contains tutorials and projects, but most importantly, it contains tests of my current skill strategically placed on days 1, 3, 10, and 30. For these tests of skill, I will give myself 1 hour to model Employee of the Month, yours truly, Donnie the Desk Duck. And the idea is that hopefully these benchmark tests will be able to show if you can truly learn Blender in just 30 days.
Whoa. WASD do anything? Whoa! What tool am I on? How do I see what I'm selecting? This might be where we're going. Okay. Progress, baby! I just like spurt out a little bit of toothpaste in the scene. Oh, the League of Legends icon. I can't even click these buttons now, dude. What? Note to self. Never select the annotation tool. You will be locked out of everything from now on. I have no idea how to like pan around, if I can even do that. Sculpting. Hey, yo, peep this. Check it. Okay, none of my strokes are doing anything. Okay, I legitimately thought I was gonna come in here and make something that looks like a duck. I have a fucking rectangle. Can I do something? It's been 15 minutes. Okay, we can select vertices now. Can we move these things? How the okay. Oh, we're not in rectangle mode anymore. Let's go. It looks so much less like a duck. I think I made a mistake thinking I can learn this in a month, dude. I feel like I've gotten more buttons on the side since I started. Knife. Give me a fucking knife and see what happens. Oh shit, I'm actually doing some damage. What the fuck is going on, man? I'm learning at an accelerated rate human beings are unfamiliar with. Wait, what happened to all my knife slices? Whoa! Okay. This might be the thing we need. You don't know what you've done. You've given me too much power now, or have zero fucking control of anything that's happening, bro. Oh, foot. Boom. Let's just go on top of here. Boom. This is an ankle. Select this whole thing and just copy it to get the other foot. You know, better what would be to if I could fucking see anything I'm doing. Yeah. Oh no. I still don't know how to select shit, bro. Select box. And shimmy that over there. Like half the rest of the scene, bro. I want to lose my mind. Oh my god. He's beautiful. His foot doesn't connect, but he looks closer to a duck than whatever this is. Add another cube. Why not? When in doubt, just add another cube. Ooh. I don't know why it gave me that angle, but that's a bit rough. Bloop. Bloop. Render. Render image. I didn't want to render this anyways, to be honest. I'm good. All right. Jesus Christ, bro. What a fucking nightmare.
So going in completely blind was brutal to say the least. So immediately I went to the only place I really know how to at this point. YouTube. That's where I found many people recommending a course by CG Cookie. Upon arriving to the quest location, I was greeted by an angelic presence. I can breathe easy now, for I am in good hands.
Ow! Cat bit me.
Up to this point, I genuinely thought Blender was just some modeling software with some light animation tools. No. Nope. Nope. No, sir. Right from the start, it was clear that Blender's goal was to give users complete creative freedom. Which, if you know what you want to make, being free is great. But for someone completely new to Blender, let alone 3D modeling, this was extremely overwhelming. I'm just a guy, and all of this looks really professional. So I was starting to feel a little bit outside of my element here, but Mr. CG Cookie reassured me that as long as I was a curious boy, everything was gonna be all right and I'd be all set for the adventure. CG Cookie's course was very in-depth and moved along quite quickly. And although this was designed to be a first-timer's tour around Blender, there was 24 videos in this series. We started with the main hub of action, the viewport. Mr. Cookie taught me the differences between object mode and edit mode. Object mode is for altering the structure as a whole, whereas edit mode is more for tinkering on a vertex to vertex level. I also learned how to navigate around, zooming in and out, rotating around, and even, get this, panning the camera. Wow. Oh my. As well as some of the essential hotkeys, such as creating primitive objects, rotating those objects, scaling, grabbing, and deleting. One thing I really do love about Blender is all of the commands are generally the same across all of the modes. So once you know how to grab something in the object mode, once you move over to the edit mode, grabbing something is still the same key, but that is just the viewport. Over here is the outliner. Over in the outliner, you can select, organize, hide, or even delete all of your objects from this menu. And finally, the properties editor. This to me is by far the most intimidating section of Blender. There is just too many tabs to understand at first glance. Mr. Cook tried his best to explain these tabs to me, but I was just really nodding my head and agreeing with no real idea what was being said to me. The properties editor essentially allows you to change any property of your object. So, what's a property, you ask? How about try fucking everything? Object dimensions, materials, modifiers, and you can even work inside of a system called geometry nodes. But trust me when I say we're getting ahead of ourselves. Before any of this, get a mouse. Controlling Blender with a trackpad is like trying to fuck on a slack line. Yeah, you can fiddle about, but finishing is really unlikely. But one diddle you're definitely gonna need to fiddle is the extrusion function. Just grab a face, press E, and presto, that's it. Just kidding. There are 5 different extrusions, with each of them having their own unique flavor of making a face eject out of an object. 5 different extrusions sounds like a lot, but one thing I failed to mention is that many of these tools have different variants. On top of this, there are many other ways of accessing the same tool inside of these buttons other than going to this dropdown. You want to subdivide? Well, just press Command 2. Or apply a modifier. Or how about you just loop cut the object and then apply a bevel to that loop cut? So you want a bevel? Well, that's Command B. Or again, apply a modifier. Or maybe nothing will happen because there was some hidden vertex you created 15 minutes ago and you should just go for yourself. On top of the many ways of accessing the same tool in different locations, or accomplishing the same result with different tools while having a tool selected, you can look down at the bottom and see a list of ways to alter the current tool's functionality. And in some cases, this can be pretty major changes, such as turning the knife into a laser tool. I appreciate flexibility. But this goes beyond flexibility. Each extrusion seemed to work differently than the last. And when you're just learning a new program for a new skill set, this can all be very overwhelming. This course did a great job showing me around Blender. However, it lacked an actual projects to test out my newfound knowledge. So midway through the course, I decided to model a simple handgun from memory to test my abilities. The way I went about this was pretty one-dimensional. The gun was basically all extrusions, and the moment it wasn't obvious how to brute force my way with extrusions, everything went belly up. I tried using a knife tool, but it always seemed to mess up my topography, creating uneven cuts and issues for me later on down the road because of those rogue cuts. Maybe I just don't get how to use the knife tool, but even to this day, it seems like the knife tool should be your last resort.
You know, that's really not bad for no reference, no tutorials, just 2 days of taking notes and coming in here and practicing what I've already learned, and I've made this? That's pretty fucking cool, dude.
In hindsight, it looks alright, but in the moment, I was extremely stoked to be creating something other than a hodgepodge of cubes. Even though I was new to Blender, I got this very nostalgic feeling.
It's a girl.
This feeling I haven't had since the first time I ever played Minecraft as a child. The feeling of endless possibility. I took a hit of that Blender good, and from that moment, I was hooked. I was riding an emotional high, and my confidence skyrocketed to completely undeserved levels. I resumed Mr. Ko's lesson just in time to learn about materials. And I'll tell you what, boy, turning that roughness all the way down got me feeling rough. All right, let's dial that back. And render. That looks literally nothing like the preview showed. So I took a look around the options to make sure I didn't have anything checked that said something like transform my render into diarrhea water. Nope, we're good. Render. Okay, what the f? I'm sure there's something in here. There's gotta be some sort of option that I'm just drawing a blank on. Okay. Just hear me out. One more render. Surely it was a mistake. A glitch. It was a glitch, so let's just render it again. Come on, man, just be shiny. The problem in hindsight was that I don't have an HDRI. Basically, a texture of the world around the object. So the object has something to reflect back. But the real problem is that I try to do what a tutorial says without watching the entire tutorial. I'll spend 30 minutes trying to articulate a problem I'm having to Google to find a solution without having the required knowledge to articulate that problem before just saying, screw it, and moving on, just to realize that the tutorial that I was already watching to begin with was literally 3 seconds away from going over it to begin with. Why am I like this? I'm wearing a jumpsuit and I sit at a computer desk all day. Why am I doing this? But on the bright side, I can model and I can make materials, and I know the basics of creating an environment just in time for day 4.
I'm at a point where I understand what a lot of these tools do, but I don't know the order of operation for these tools, so I'm still confused. But I think we're just going to start from the bottom up and just solve one problem at a time, and hopefully we'll finish in an hour. So let's start with the base. We need to get a circle down, and then we need to fill it. I really have the most experience working with cubes, so let's go ahead and bring in the cube. I want to subdivide this. Maybe I shouldn't subdivide this. I could loop cut this, cut it in half. We'll loop cut this, this, this. Right click and press enter. Why is that subdivided like that? Not sure how that happened. Only edges and faces? That's not right either. I honestly don't know how to really remove this. Let's try undoing all of these knives. As far back as the undo goes. Cube, be gone. No. Shift S, cursor to world origin. Shift A, I'm in object mode. Pull in a cube. Now we have our cube again. All right, X, and I want to delete only faces. No, not what I wanted to do. Undo. X, I want faces and edges. Why does that look so fucked up? Feels like it's deleting way more than it should be. I can do this. I can do this. Once I get this 1 foot, I'll have a rhythm, and the rest of it's gonna fly. I can do this. Only edges and faces, only faces. All right, let's do only faces. And I'm just gonna clean up these edges separately. F for fill. Not quite. To do this side. Fill. Aha. It's so simple probably, but oh my god, that was so satisfying. It's satisfying to overcome the issues. I'm not sure why I'm having the issues I'm having though. All right, all right, all right. How did the back of this get subdivided into triangles? How would that even happen? There's no way I knifed it from that angle. It's concerning when you do stuff on accident because that's what's gonna lead to mesh errors. There's probably an easier way for this and I'm probably a big dumb idiot. But I'm doing way better than last time. Let's add a bevel modifier. Damn, that looks pretty good. Whoa, 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 whoa there, doggy. How'd you get here? When'd you show up to the party? Get out of here. You were not invited. I want to mirror this across the green line, which means I want to mirror this across the y-axis. G, lock it to the x-axis. Yo, where the fuck did you go? Huh? Did I just close Blender or did Blender just crash? No. No. Blender actually crashed. Fuck, how do I recover? There's a way to do it. It would crash right now. Stay focused. Recover. Last session. No. Cover autosave. No. No. Okay. Oh, I'm so sad, man. We don't have time to be sad. Let's get started. I can do this. I am capable. I am the one who can achieve the goal at hand. Actually, the only one that can achieve the goal at hand, because I'm the only one that knows the goal even exists. I am fast, I am speedy, I am saving, I am not greedy. How fast did we remodel that? I think it only took a few minutes. Save. I'm fucking turbo saving. Generate. Mirror. On the Y. How do I make space here? Mirror object? I don't know how the mirror object would be the base at all, but that worked somehow. Good job. Let's keep it going. Save. We're in object mode. I need a new object. Shift A. My hands are sweating so bad. I'm not nervous. You're nervous. Why am I even nervous? Maybe it's because my timer is ticking away. My time on this earth is slowly drifting away. And here I am, learning Blender. This duck is huge. He has a thigh gap of 4 meters. My god. He's fucking massive. Perfect. Not perfect. This is what happens when you don't understand camera controls. About 0.5. Perfect. Looks about right, probably, after the subdivisions. Generate subdivision surface. Let's go here. Let's grab this face along the y-axis. Drop it down. That's a thick ass boy. Sheesh. Oh my god. Grab face, extrude. Grab these faces and extrude. You know, we're kind of getting kind of close. Do we have time to do this? Oh shit, we are running low. Scale along the X. What if I just delete these faces? Uh-oh. Grab these edges and I just filled. Kinda works. Let's extrude them. I'm giving it more shape, but my shape isn't accurate at all. G along the X. Boop. And then scale along the X. Black. Orange. Vertices. And scale along the X. And boom. Time. Oh my gosh, man. I'm really happy.
Kind of like it better.
The other one better?
No, this dinosaur duck version better.
Oh, then Donnie?
Are you gonna fix the beat?
No, I gave myself an hour. This is what I did in 1 hour.
That's way better than your first one.
Way freaking better than my first one.
It's so cute. You did the body so well, and the feet.
Decently well, yeah.
I'm excited to see version 3.
My wife said it best. This is more like Donnie the Desk Dinosaur. But compared to day 1, we have come an insanely long way. And now we are closer than ever to making Pikachu wiggle them sweet cheeks, baby. Now all I had left of this basics course was sculpting. And sculpting felt wrong on every conceivable level. It was just such a foreign feeling to try and create through destruction. And something about creating organic shapes rather than perfect geometry snapped to a grid line felt like... And the blessed cube, man. Desecrated into a ball of fecal matter topology. Especially sculpting with a mouse and keyboard felt damn near sacrilegious. And before I knew it, we were done with the entirety of the Blender Basic course, clocking in at around 7 hours over 3 days to complete. Now I understand that we were crunched for time. This is a huge undertaking to make a tutorial like this, but I couldn't help but feel like I wish we were working towards something that entire time. Like when I finished the course, I felt like I didn't have anything to show for it, which was a bummer. But like I said, this was an enormous undertaking for CG Cookie to take on. So all in all, a fantastic course. And if you're starting Blender and you're certain you're gonna stick with Blender for a long time and it's worth the time investment, definitely start here. Now the only question was, where do I go from here?
This is Blender, open source 3D software that can be used to make animations, visual effects, game assets, or practically anything 3D.
Come on, you knew this was coming. I've never even used Blender, and even I know about Blender Guru.
One artist even snuck his into a little film called Everything Everywhere All at Once. Very clever.
Really? What?
Donut Guru was blowing my mind, and we haven't even started the donut yet.
So, I'm asking you right now, that's right, right now, donate.
I would. I would, but, and I want to, but, you know. But his Discord was free, so I checked that out, and Blender is just such an amazing program, you guys. But it was finally time to get started, and I already fucked up. I really don't know how this happened, but I'm an expert in dragging one vertex around at a time, so it didn't take me too long to get back on track. Donut Daddy did a great job making this course really easy to follow along, explaining exactly what he was doing, some issues that can arise if you don't follow the steps the way he's showing them, as well as not rambling on forever, making a pretty basic tutorial extremely enjoyable. He also did an amazing job expressing his feelings.
ZBrush's user experience and interface is so arcane, so badly hodgepodge together. It's not like ZBrush where you got like 4 or 5 different ways to save a project or an object or a tool They never had any thought in the process. They just lumped it all in there. And Blender's sculpting tools competes with that. Again, ZBrush is the competitor, so some things are a little weird here. Hey, yeah, the filter tools, yeah, they're not the easiest to understand, but at least we're not ZBrush. Hate ZBrush. Okay, that's how you save.
He is a legend for a reason.
Man, this guy's a meme.
For the most part, the tutorial was extremely smooth sailing. Until geometry nodes. Before I had even started Blender, I had already seen some crazy examples of node chains from programs such as DaVinci Resolve or Unreal. I mean, look at this. Like, what the and yep, in Blender, it is a nightmare too. It's not Donut Man's fault. It's just that geometry nodes, they give you a lot of flexibility. And as we've discussed before, the more flexibility you have, the more of a f you it is to people that are new to the program.
A for add, and then we're looking for point, distribute points on faces. Okay, and if you just mouse over that line there till it lights up, if you click, it's going to automatically connect it for you, which is Shift A, geometry, join geometry. Take the output of our original mesh and then feed it over to here. Outliner up here, just dragging it down into your geometry nodes and dropping it. Okay, instances on points. By going here in our distribute points on faces, change it from random distribution to Poisson disk distribution. Poisson. I've got sprinkles everywhere, which is not what we want, obviously. Well, how would I know that it's called the named attribute? Because it's called vertex groups over here. You think like, okay, I'm going to type in vertex group, but it's an attribute, but it's one of many attributes, and geometry nodes can do many things, so it's just called the named attribute. So anyways, and the bugs could be defined by here, but the smaller the object is, right? You could have the same amount of bugs going across the highway. Okay.
It's so hot in this thing, it's so hot in this thing, it's so hot. The geometry node system is basically full of these blocks, and these blocks contain little bits of code or like little operations for Blender to fulfill. And depending on how you string them together with these little ropes, it basically tells Blender in what order to do what. That's why some of these examples look so crazy. It's because geometry nodes can essentially allow you to do whatever you want. I know I'm being super vague about all this, but truthfully, it's because I don't have a clue what's going on. You know what? I'm just sick of this mess. I'm sick of it. We're going back to the good old days.
That roller is called, for your information, is called the middle mouse button. And this is why there's really not much difference between 3ds Max and Blender. Oh, I'm gonna get letters on that one. Everyone able to do that? Okay, one second, I'll come help you, Roxanne.
Ah, yes, the classics. I almost just put my mic in my mouth.
I want to give you some homework, and that is to try to model this plate.
I insert faces, and then I think I extrude this on the Z-axis. I thought it was just scale. Surely I can just hit I, right? No? What if I hit F and fill that, then hit I? No? And let's extrude it. Yeah, just loop cut this. Grab it and move it along the Z. I mean, that's pretty close. Add some modifiers to this.
Trying to model a plate and getting a paper plate was only really fitting for me. When I was learning to draw, one of the hardest parts for me was lighting and perspective. And with Blender, it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Where the light is coming from, shadows, shape, color blending, but you also get fine-tuning ability as for how the light bounces around the scene, the strength, the way the light penetrates objects, and how your camera captures all of that light data. Blender truly is the ultimate sandbox, hands down. Out of what I've seen, which isn't a whole lot, but it's pretty cool. Personally, I found this part of the process to be really, really fun. This kind of thing in real life is really expensive, but in Blender, It's free, baby! Nice, cool. Then got a little taste of the animation system, and for someone with some marginal experience in animations within other software, wasn't too difficult to understand, which was a welcome surprise considering the way things had been going recently. And before I knew it, the Donut project had come to an end. It was a bittersweet ending. I was really enjoying working alongside Donut Dude, and honestly, this was the only thing I had planned before coming into this project, so I didn't really know where to go after this point. However, I was excited to see how everything I just learned would aid me in my next test. All right, well, the day has come. It is day 10. Reluctantly. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I have 7 more days of experience, and I completed the entirety of the donut tutorial, which, let's face it, it means I'm an expert. So you know the drill. We will be modeling this duck in 1 hour and getting as close as we can. All right, 1 hour on the clock, starting now. There's no reason to be thinking. Start from the bottom. Shift A. Shift A is apply. Wait, what did I hit? Control A? Control A is apply. This is concerning that I'm still confused with these to this day. Let's actually start from the base, which is a circle. Go to edit mode and fill. Let's also head over to our modifiers and let's add a solidify. Amazing. Look at us go. Let's subdivide this. So that is command 2. Subdivided it. Huh? There we go. Simple. Where's the subdivision? I feel like this should be cut. Hello? This is clearly subdivided way too many freaking times because I am lagging now. I think last time I just loop cut this thing, but surely... How is that different than the subdivision modifier? Now that looks more like something I want. These will be a toe. Now I kind of want to turn on snapping to vertex. And we're going to move this along the x-axis. Hello? This whole process still isn't obvious to me, honestly. I've gotten better at watching a tutorial, remembering the steps, understanding the UI, having an account for the tools, knowing what hotkeys are, but I still don't fully get the order of operations. Then I'm gonna highlight these junction points, and I'm gonna hit M by distance. Really, there's no overlapping vertices here. I see them right there, Blender. How is this even possible? All right, let's just bevel this then. Huh? I think the knife tool is best to connect these, which is K. Ah. Why you need to go behind there, huh? Good enough. I mean, it's not bad. We scale along the Y. Something's not right. Merge by distance. .0001, enter. That merged 12 vertices. Now let's see. Scale along the Y. Wow, would you look at that? Now let's grab this, add a modifier, let's add a solidify. What the hell? Why is this one coming out all weird right here? There are points that are linked here that are not supposed to be linked. Oh, there's like a remesh button. M. No. Shift M. B. No. Control B. Heyo. No. Option B. No. M. Split. No. This foot, man. This foot gives me trouble. What if I go to sculpting? Will that allow me to remesh this? Yep. And what a fucking mess that was. Bro! I'm supposed to be coming in here doing things better than last time. What the hell? Why is this so hard? Why is this program so freaking hard? Dude, up. Rather than solidify, perhaps? Yo, why is the freaking tools in this so sensitive? And C for clamp on. And it just clamps immediately. I'm having some kind of mesh error. We can do this. Let's just add a bevel modifier. Yeah, that's not working neither. All right, I'm beveling the whole frickin' thing. And nobody can stop me. How many mesh errors did that just... Ugh! Somehow this is harder than last time. I've been at it for 25 minutes. Do I delete and restart? Jeez, my cats are so excited. They're pumped about this duck. So I can't let them down. Plane. Surely this works. Surely. This should be how the fill tool works, and if it doesn't work, it's Blender's fault, not my fault. Can I bevel this?
Here we go again.
Bevel vertice. Why is the node coming from there? Like what? Sometimes Blender does stuff that's just insanely confusing, honestly. I just don't know. This mesh looks pretty freaking good. Let's go back to object mode and let's add a solid. Surely it works this time. Looks like it's working. Why? It worked. I have no idea why it wasn't working before. No idea why it's working now. Shade smooth. The fuck is wrong with this texture? Shade smooth by angle? What is this shading error, bro? Face orientation. Blue. I have 20 minutes to model the entire rest of the duck. Getting really freaking discouraged, dude. I've been working so hard on this every single day. What's the problem? So remove the solid. We need to freaking adapt and quick. Otherwise, we're about to be in trouble. Let's grab the top of this. Let's extrude it up. And once again, I have a motherfucking shading error. Maybe it's just a solid rendering issue and a material preview or rendered. It'll come out normal. Right, guys? Guys? It has to be related to me beveling these vertices because that is really where I'm seeing the errors. Let's go ahead and grab the entire mesh and merge by distance. Okay, 8 vertices were removed, but even still, there seems to be some overlapping. What the fuck, dude? What the actual fuck did I do wrong? This is so hideous. I have 15 minutes left. I have been creating 1 foot for 45 minutes. And you know what? I'm making the foot again, goddammit. I don't care about completing the duck at this point. I care about getting this fucking mesh right. You know, if all I have is just a pristine duck foot at the end of this, fine. If I have nothing, fine. Plain. No. Demon program. If you don't work, I swear. Sometimes using Blender It's like brushing your teeth with Satan's cock, bro! What the fuck is going on? This is deleting all the edges with it, right? Because if I get another motherfucking error, I'm gonna lose it. Subdivide. Do it. Good enough. Move on. Another one. Solidify. Good. Another one. Bevel. Dude, the base model matters too much. It matters so much. We're good, right? And this stack is actually ordered well. Okay. Foot 3 for fuck's sake. And then shade smooth. It only took me 50 fucking minutes. But you know what? That's a nice foot. This is named Orange. And I'm out of time. I'm freaking upset, dude. I'm upset. I only have a foot. Like, what the fuck, dude? It just feels like, what the hell am I working for? And I know that's not true. I know it's not true. I know this foot is done probably better than the last foot. And if I would have kept going with the model, I know I have more experience and I would have probably been able to do the body better, but that is what I'm capable of doing on day 10 within the time limit. It's freaking embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. Like, 410. I have legitimately more than 30 hours in this program now. And in 1 hour, that's it. You know, I've learned a lot of things in the past, and failing is a component of learning. So I'm not completely devastated or anything. I'm not thinking about quitting. That's not an option in my mind. But my goals are input oriented, and this is just a checkpoint to demonstrate where I'm currently at. And where I'm currently at is almost more confused than I was on day 3. Day 3, I didn't know what kind of errors could occur. I didn't know anything about rendering or how long rendering would take based on how complex the geometry is. And now I'm trying to avoid those issues that I'm learning about. And I don't fully understand the sequence of things yet. I just don't have a good enough grasp of it. So I've learned so much, I'm almost having like a negative impact on my output because I'm concerned with too much, clearly. This is f***ing annoying, dude. This is super annoying. I don't know what the f*** I'm doing, dude. I don't know what the f*** I'm doing. So now that the donut tutorial was over, I really didn't know where I was gonna go with things. But whenever I'm generally lost as to what I should be doing, there is one place I like to check out. For better or worse. Reddit. You can tell a lot about a community by their subreddit, and I'm mainly referring to people who actually post on the subreddit, because more often than not, they are reasonable human beings who just want to show you something cool.
Ew.
However, commenters, on the other hand,
Other things I'd recommend doing. Read the manual. What? Are you kidding me? This is half a gig? Welcome to Blender. Blender is a free and open source 3D creation suite. Who uses Blender? Yep.
Blender's history? You gotta be shitting me.
Yeah.
I'm getting bored. This is 4,500 pages.
I just can't help but yawn, man. It's the most boring book I've ever read.
Who would recommend this? Literally only someone on Reddit would recommend this. He's tipping his fedora as he's leaving this bullshit in the comments.
Less competition now.
I can't. Not for me. So Reddit was a bust. So back over to YouTube we go. And that's where I found this tutorial for this cute little bot. And yeah, I'm still following tutorials because Blender is f***ing complicated, okay? And after a huge defeat like that, I needed something to boost my confidence and my spirit back up. This tutorial wasn't too complicated, and it really helped me hammer home the modeling order of operations. Blender is,
I'm so sick of this fucking company. Fucking love to do. Oh! Yeah, look what I did.
as someone who's never 3D modeled before, Blender is strange because you can do the same things in a different order and get wildly different outcomes. So knowing the order of operations in which to do things is really important to getting the things you want. On top of that, it introduced me to some new tools such as the shrink and flatten tool. This tool compared to the scale tool is a bit of a headache, but after repeating the action over and over and over to try and get what the difference was, I started to vaguely understand it. Scale keeps the proportions the exact same, but makes the entire object larger or smaller, where shrink or flatten keeps the overall scale of the object the same, but shrink or flattens the proportions. Even just saying that out loud, I can't even explain it to myself where it makes sense, but I started to kind of grasp that at least there's a difference between the two. I also got taught some more extrusion nonsense that's pretty essential to understand if you want to model anything.
Oh, how that looks nice, though.
I also learned about the shrink wrap modifier, which takes one object and sucks it onto another. And last, but certainly not least, I learned about the bool tool, which is criminally fun to say. The bool tool essentially allows you to fuse two objects together. It also allows you to create cuts in very non-destructive ways that is very simple to undo or change later. And that's one thing you'll learn about doing any type of art digitally. Doing anything in a non-destructive way is extremely beneficial if you're new to something. So if you can find a way to do the same thing you were doing before, but in a non-destructive way, oftentimes on the surface it appears like it might be more difficult, but trust me, it'll save you a lot of headache and time in the end because you're likely to make a mistake somewhere down the road.
A lovely cup of coffee. Cheers.
Or how about a nice warm cup of piss? CG Boost tutorial was honestly the perfect step up in difficulty that I was looking for. I got really lucky finding this at this time because he didn't go into the extremely basic stuff like how to grab an object, but it was still relatively beginner friendly enough where I learned about a bunch of basic tools that are essential to modeling that I didn't know before. Thank you very much, Lewis. And now more than ever, I was really starting to feel like I was actually getting the hang of things. It's pretty funny how just following along with a tutorial after being completely lost trying to do your own thing is a great way of boosting your confidence to completely undeserved levels. So I took that confidence and I branched away from tutorials. When I say branched away from tutorials, I mean I'm just not gonna follow one step by step, but I'm still likely gonna have to refer back to one eventually. This time, the goal was to model my first building. So firstly, one of my goals for this project was to create a design that was simple enough to be done in a single day or so. But I also didn't want it to be so simple that I didn't get my skills pushed forward at all. So I was trying to balance this gray area of complication and simplicity. And when you have no idea what you are doing, that is impossible to balance. So I left YouTube and I headed over to Pinterest for some inspiration. And by inspiration, I mean a yoink. So I made some minor modification to the scale of the building, removed some of the pieces I thought were unnecessary, and I added some details here and there. So obviously this house is my 100%. So obviously this house is 100% my own original design. And with the sketch complete, it was time to embark on my biggest journey yet.
My brain feels like it's gonna fucking implode.
To start, I laid down the foundation. And I'm stuck. Instantly, without someone literally holding my hand step by step through the process, I was completely lost. How could this be? I was just feeling so confident, and honestly, I was learning a lot. How am I stuck instantly? I was really struggling to control these sidewalk bits the way I wanted to, and after tinkering around for literally an hour, I just decided to delete it all and restart. So I made the foundation again and just decided that the sidewalk was a problem for later me to figure out. So I just moved on to the first layer of the house. And I'm stuck. Welcome to Blender Hell. When I switched to edit mode, the top floor would just disappear. I tried hiding all of my objects and then revealing them. I tried Googling my issues many times. I even tried the infamous switch back and forth between edit mode and object mode 100 times in a row without doing literally anything else. And wouldn't you know, to no one's surprise, nothing happened.
Sometimes doing the simplest things in 3D modeling is so complicated, man.
I once again started over from the beginning with this building, wasting yet another hour of time. I guess the balcony was hidden in edit mode, but not in object mode? I honestly don't know. But what I do know is this project was off to a lovely start, and the real problems have yet to even begin.
My question is, if I wanted to combine... Oh boy, what the hell? What is going on? Oh Lord, where'd this edge go? Is this the overlap? Which way is it? I want these two not to talk anymore. How did this happen though? What the fuck is happening right here? Now that I've hit J, if I go back to edit mode and go to solid, that is a real roof, right? The questions I have to ask are preposterous, honestly. Resolve edge. Now, is this all one? Go through one at a time and make sure that there's actually faces here. Wow, real faces. Do I dare edge? Do I dare loop cut this again?
Okay, I guess add a door to the list of things to come back to later. Surprisingly, the pillars were simple enough, and I made quick work of that balcony, making sure that
we always label our layers.
Just after I look up how to spell pillar. But sadly, with all of that done so quick, it meant it was time to come back to the door problem.
Okay, so I think what happened last time was I loop cut. Let me see if I can replicate it. I think what I did was I went backwards like that. Yeah, now they're overlapping. Well, I figured out what I did wrong, at least. That's really helpful, so I don't make that mistake again.
And boom, first try. And that's when I realized...
Put the door on the wrong side.
So I went ahead and jumped forward a few steps and decided to tinker around with some materials because, honestly, when you're stuck on a project, just getting things away from that ugly, basic gray look can really... I mean, this isn't too much better, but it can help you feel like you're doing something more than you actually are, giving you that quick, easy dopamine. And from here, for a while, things were actually going pretty smooth. I made some cute little dangly lamps, and I also made some shingles for the roof I was working on.
God damn, the bottom of this looks like shit. And I don't know if shingles, it's like each shingle is like getting a little bigger, and I'm not sure if shingles do that. I'm trying not to be a perfectionist though. I've been really trying to let go of perfectionism. It plagues my life, so I'm just gonna keep moving.
And before long, the house was actually coming together. I thought for sure this was going to be a train wreck after the beginning, but it was seeming more and more likely that I was gonna finish this in just a couple days, a couple days behind schedule. But, you know, that's actually a couple days ahead of schedule for me, if you really think about it, because I'm normally behind schedule way more than just a couple days. So it was going good. It was going pretty well. Once I got to the second part of the roof though, I did try and reuse the shingles from the first layer, but it just didn't look right to a level that was just not acceptable to me. Finally, I was not able to let it go. So I remodeled the shingles, and I'm actually happy I did remodel them because I got to feel in real time my progression just within this one project alone. The first time modeling those shingles, I really didn't know what I was doing at all, whereas the second time, I had a mental image and I was able to project it into 3D way more successfully than I ever had done before with any model. And that's super satisfying.
I'm glad I just remodeled it. I think this looks a lot better. It doesn't have the messed up geometry on the bottom. It actually looks pretty good.
And it's those little victories that really keep the ball moving. So the bulk of the modeling was done, and there was only one tiny detail I needed. Currently, the ground is flat and boring as hell, and we can't have that after the house turned out pretty damn good. Some grass. Just a little bit of grass, and the project is done. Just a little bit of grass, and the project is done. Just a little bit of grass, and the project is done. Just a little bit of grass, and the project is done. Just a little bit of grass. It's just a little bit of grass. It's just a little bit of grass, okay? I just wanted a little bit of grass.
Just some little blades of grass sticking out of the ground, okay? That's just all I wanted.
I just wanted some grass. And so I know manually placing grass on the ground is the simplest way of doing things, but it's also the nerdiest way of doing things. Like, come on. Manually placing grass on a floor, there just has to be a better way. So this was actually the first time that I really dived into a tutorial for the whole project. All I wanted to know was just how to place some grass on the ground procedurally, you know, without me doing it by hand. And I had already done this with the sprinkles on the donut, so this wasn't gonna be that hard. And would you look at that? Found a tutorial. Literally 2 minutes long. Easy peasy, baby. So I sketched up some grass in Procreate and followed along with the tutorial. However, I quickly realized that this tutorial was not 2 minutes because it was extremely simple. You know, it wasn't the most complicated thing ever, but it was 2 minutes because this dude was on the verge of breaking the damn sound barrier at the lightning speed he was moving. And no joke, this 2-minute tutorial quickly turned into a 40-minute tutorial after I watched it over 10 times at half speed. An additional hour passed. An entire hour on a 2-minute tutorial.
I'll watch it again. Every time they turn on their particle system, it's just hair standing straight up. I'm also confused why it's like way the f out here. Because the emitter seems to be sticking to the plane fine. And the hair length, not affected really at all.
Why do I always create so many problems for myself? This could be done right now, but I had to add grass. It's just grass, I thought. How hard could it be? It's just grass. Clearly it's hard.
My particle system is just not working how other people's particle systems work. I guarantee you, it's something I'm doing wrong. But Blender is such a complicated program that I don't know what that something is. I got no clue. What gives? Bugged? Try changing to global Z depending on the orientation of your object. I don't even have an object selected. Apply scale and rotation. really it? I don't even know what to say, man. I think I've been messing around with this hair particle system for an hour. Just because I didn't apply scale and rotation? Okay. We have hair. Hoggers. Although the hair is going through the sidewalk. Can I like weight paint this? Here I go. Just making it more complicated for myself. Why not? Right? I just got done with one issue. Make another. How to make hair in Blender. Now back to the original tutorial that we started 2 hours ago.
2 hours over the course of 2 days to make it 50% of the way through the video. 50% of the way through a 2-minute video. That's only 1 minute through. Just to have spaghetti noodles standing straight up on my lawn. Spaghetti noodles that are not al dente. So at this point, I have no idea what I'm doing wrong, but this video is not working for me. I have followed everything to a T, and it's not working. It's not working at all. I promise you I'm following the instructions. There's no way I followed the instructions wrong when I watched the video 8,000 times.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm almost done with this project. Time to dive into particle systems. Woohoo!
That's when I realized that the creator of this video actually made a follow-up video in the description. So I decided to check out this much needed deep dive. Please answer my questions. Just please help me make a few strands of grass on my lawn. Now this video was more of a philosophy of style, more of the etiquette of making grass in any art type of video, but in his defense, he already made the tutorial. And yet I watched this video in desperation at least 3 more times.
I'm sure you can figure it out at this point. And if you can't, well, I'm disappointed in you, and I'm expecting you to rewatch the video and try harder, because I tried my best to explain it, and if that's not good enough for you, then I don't know what to say.
This is not the first time I've heard this. This is not new information.
All right. I cannot get this lighting to work. I don't really know what I'm doing wrong, but this looks terrible right now. So I'm gonna try a different tutorial and stop trying to brute force this. I found this one online, and this is what the grass should look like. That looks beautiful. I would love if my grass looked like that instead of whatever the hell that is. So let's just go ahead and get rid of this.
So this new tutorial was technically far more challenging. However, he went at a speed that worked for me, and he wasn't disappointed in me yet.
That grass, baby.
So I know I'm just kind of cruising through this for the sake of your sanity, really. But understand, I have been staring at nothing but grass for over 10 hours straight at this point. I'm about to lose it, and that's saying it real mildly.
What the fuck?
The project was done. I made the house. The goal was accomplished. Why did I need to make grass? And now I have this. A bunch of fat cocks cranking that fucking Soldier Boy on my lawn. On top of that, I pretty much cannot screen record anymore. If I try and screen record, Blender is gonna have a bigger meltdown than I'm having right now. All because of these little earth pubes.
My brain feels like it's gonna fucking implode.
I'm not sure if it's the emissions
and the fractal noise waves. I'm really not sure what's giving my system so much lag, but yeah, it's becoming a problem. So I need to wrap this up. I've been working on it for a week. It's time to just move on, I think, honestly.
I reached a point where it kind of looked like grass and we were good. I'm done. I am done. Or maybe just one more thing. To go with the grass, you obviously need some rocks, okay? And maybe some realistic texturing for the rocks and the wood. And the what the fuck am I doing, man? What am I doing? In hindsight, watching this footage over again, I'm just so blown away at my own stupidity. To calm down, I put on my favorite tunes, and I just tried to make it to the end. The end that I was arbitrarily pushing back for no reason. To do this, I used a combination of bump maps to create the texture, and fractal noise for the patterns to generate semi-realistic materials. But the Mac, on the other hand, had other plans and refused to do much of anything, really. Like, the Mac was shitting the bed. Bad. We were in dangerous territory. I was starting to think that I wasn't gonna be able to render this project at all. Not even without the anime titties. If I tried to look at what I was doing in a rendered mode, I was teetering on the brink of destruction, with every click turning into a 30-second load time, followed by a prayer session for Blender not to crash. So thankfully, I was saved by my own hardware. I had to push the brakes because my Mac just couldn't take it anymore, let alone I couldn't take it anymore. Why was I still going on this project? So I reeled it back. I gave up on all the realistic textures, and I just pressed render and hoped for the frickin' best, dude. Honestly, it looks pretty good, but for how long I spent on this project, I could have been done with this a week ago. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. I should have just made the house and pressed render and been done with it and then made another house if I wanted to do better. I don't know why. I beat my head on that wall so damn hard. And all I can hope is that I learn my lesson and in the future I don't do this again. Right? The passion for the whole Blender project was crawling to an unbelievable low. Honestly, weirdly enough, one thing this project did give me was an appreciation for real grass. It's all unique. There are many different shapes, sizes, and colors, yet we walk by it every day and don't really ever stop to think about it. The world we live in is honestly pretty amazing when you're literally forced to stop and take in those tiny details. So for that, I am grateful. I guess the suffering comes with its benefits sometimes. And it was at this point that I made a discovery. Blender is complicated. The hubris I had to just try and take on more and more and more systems and think that I could just do it quickly. Oh, it's a 2-minute tutorial. I should be able to get this done in 2 minutes then. I was forced to stop and recognize that this software is amazing, but it is extremely complicated, and I'm gonna need to dial it back if I want to keep enjoying doing this, really. So here are the rules I set up for myself. Use nodes as little as possible. Animate as little as possible. And when we're making textures, just make them super basic. No more ultra realistic textures. The primary focus of this challenge was no longer learn all of Blender. That was gonna be impossible in 30 days. And with only 10 days left, I wanted to just focus on 3D modeling. That's it. That doesn't mean that I'm just gonna say no to learning anything new, but the scope of what I'm willing to learn has been drastically decreased, which hopefully will allow me to see bigger gains in the modeling department. So with these new guidelines, I actually had a few questions that needed to be answered before moving forward. What texture style could I use? I needed something that isn't too complicated, something I can learn quickly, and something that isn't too difficult for my machine to handle. Next, what's a subject matter that I can model repeatedly that isn't too easy, I won't get bored of it, and that I have room to express my skill improvements over time. I also want the subject to be kind of popular, where there's likely resources about it online just in case I have questions. I took a look around my apartment for an item that fell under these criteria. Too easy, too boring, too complicated, or too slow. Everything I was looking at just didn't really feel like the way to go. And then my wife said, "Why don't you model the cats?" The cats. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, but per usual, my wife has the best ideas. I also wanted to give them a theme. Modeling a normal cat at my skill level is, at best, just lame, but at worst, I mean, some of them land in the so bad it's good category, but for the most part, they can get kind of creepy if you're trying to model something that's too realistic. I personally have 4 cats, and yeah, that's a lot. But with there being 4 of them, I decided to go with a D&D party theme. We got Squirt the Squire, Azir the Scribe, Junie the Mage, and Seabass the Rogue. So starting today, we have 10 days to model all 4 of them. Starting with the youngest, Squirt, aka Squad, Squid, Squash, Squilliam, and lastly, an actual nickname of his, Squire. Squirt is a squire because he's always following someone around. Food time, TV time, or even sunbathing, he is always in need of an escort. Other than my few attempts at Donnie the Duck, I had never really modeled a character yet. So I took to search and I found this popular tutorial by Southern Shoddy. Based on the thumbnail, it was cute, yet didn't seem too complicated. So I sketched up a design of Squirt similar to the style of his cat with my own unique variations. Not so much where I would be lost on how to model him, but just enough where I'm not following a tutorial step by step this late in the game. The fact that I'm even following tutorials this late into the challenge just goes to show how complicated Blender really is. Or how incompetent I am. It's extremely difficult to conceive how to create something in 3D if you've never done the workflow before. So right from the get-go, the character modeling process was actually quite a bit different from creating a building. Character modeling seemed to rely on sculpting a lot more, which for me was intimidating because personally I find things to be uncomfortable if they're not aligned to a grid. But after some time, I realized it's not all that complicated. Make a cube, subdivide it, and then start shaping it with loop cuts, extrusions, and creases. And then once you get the base shape right, that's when you can decide if you want to sculpt it or not. With sculpting, something that helped me personally was just turning the strength way down and taking my time, making small, slow tugs until the shape felt more organic. If the strength is too high, you will likely pull too hard, making creases or seams within your model, and no one wants that. This is also where if you struggle with perfectionism, it's gonna really hurt, because sculpting a character model, you need to be okay with just moving things around and letting them fall how they fall. Your character model will never look exactly like your reference because sculpting is just imprecise by nature. Rick Rubin says it best: when the work has 5 mistakes, it's not yet complete. But when the work has 8 mistakes, it might be. Now, this tutorial says it's for beginners, and I don't think I'd call it an intermediate tutorial, but I could definitely see why some people in the comments were complaining. Some parts of the video were super fast and just assumed that you knew the basic fundamentals, which not all beginners do. And some of his keybinds were different than the default keybinds, so if you were trying to follow along bit by bit, I could see how you definitely fall apart. Honestly, my recommendation is that you take CG Cookie's course and the donut tutorial before you try anything else on YouTube, even if it says beginner. Blender is just too big of a program for anyone to be expected to include every single little detail in their beginner tutorial. So without doing these 2 first, any tutorial is gonna seem complicated, really. God damn, this cat's packing some heat in this trunk. Before I knew it, Squire was almost complete, and getting the model done flew by. It only took me about 3 days, and yeah, 3 days is quite a bit, but I'm hoping that I'll improve with each iteration of each cat since I'm modeling essentially the same thing 4 times. And now all that's left is the texturing, which in that exact moment, I was just realizing I still had yet to solve that question. And so I just stopped. I stopped opening Blender entirely. I let this roadblock completely halt my progression. A day passed, 2 days passed, and before I knew it, 5 days had passed and I had still not opened Blender. When you go this long without returning to a project, especially a project where the scope of things is still new to you, you really start to dig a hole. A hole where all of your motivation starts to pour in and you lose it. Your passion on any project has an expiration date, and as time passes, so does your passion. And with very little passion, I find myself creating this story in my head. It's been 5 days since I've looked at Blender. I was never really any good at it, so now I'm really gonna be struggling. I only had 30 days to practice this, and now it's gonna take several days just to remember what I was even doing. Look at how much time you've wasted. No wonder you're where you are right now. You just don't have what it takes to accomplish these ridiculous goals. All of these thoughts create this negative atmosphere within my head, and living in that atmosphere it's uncomfortable. So without really thinking about it, I fell into some bad habits, poor coping skills I learned to deal with stress over time. One of these every once in a while might not be that bad for you, but collectively, they created this spiral, like this negative spiral downward. A spiral that creates a weaker body, and through that weaker body, a weaker mind. And with that weak mind, the ability to create a more positive story for yourself, a story that would drive you forward, that ability is diminished. And with that ability gone, hope, it's kind of lost. One night during my feeling sorry for myself ramen noodle binges, I saw a video on YouTube by someone named La Cruzo. The thumbnail showed an image of a vending machine in a hybrid 2D, 3D style. I'm still pretty new to art in general, so I had no idea this was even called a 2D, 3D hybrid. I had no idea what cell shading was. I had never even heard the term toon shader. But this was exactly what I needed. This style would not only be easy for my machine to render, but also match my simplistic 3D modeling skills. And just like that, I was inspired. My passion for the project defibrillated back into rhythm, and I knew I needed to capitalize on this feeling right now, while it was still fresh. But that story, it creeps back in. We all have these stories that we tell ourselves. Some parts of the story are true, and some parts are grossly exaggerated. But you don't need this story to change things. You don't need this story to climb out of the hole. This story is an illusion. What really matters is this exact moment. Right here, right now. I needed to break down the goal into the simplest, smallest steps possible. The next step wasn't to texture the project. It wasn't to watch a tutorial. It was to take a deep breath and then start by standing up off the damn couch. And then it was to take one step. Tune out all of the future parts of the goal. Your mind is going to try and calculate everything that it needs to know to accomplish the goal. But you need to tune out everything that's in the future. If it's not a part of the here and now, it's really irrelevant. Sit down at the desk. Log into the PC. Just open Blender. Find a project. Tinker around and get a feel for moving the camera again. And just break down just the next step into the smallest part you can imagine. Nothing more. And with each micro adjustment, the story is crafted. You don't need to change the story in your head to create action. You must create tiny, impossible to fail actions, one after another, repeatedly until the story changes by happenstance. By doing this, I found myself sucked into a flow. And before I knew it, an hour had passed. And I was actually a good chunk of the way through the tutorial, which, by the way, was really, really well structured and super simple to follow along with. So after the cell shading, next was the line work. So line work in Blender is done with this feature called Grease Pencil. And Grease Pencil is way, way better than it has any right to be. Although Grease Pencil was a whole new system, which I vowed that I wouldn't do to myself, it was at least a system that I was kind of familiar with. I've done 2D work inside of Procreate and Photoshop before. And that's when I realized if I thought sculpting with a mouse was rough, 2D line work with a mouse is a whole nother level. I tried to hook up my iPad over connectivity, but the line work was just extremely jittery. I guess I just didn't have a stable enough connection or something. Although my line work wasn't great to begin with, things just ended up looking better if I used mouse and keyboard and just held down the shift key for auto smooth, which honestly was a huge bummer. Like, I have this tool right next to me, but I couldn't use it.
Obviously, I have some work to do in certain areas, but oh my god, this is so cute.
Ultimately, I'm grateful that I was able to experience this how most people are likely to experience grease pencil for the first time, instead of having some fancy tool right off the bat. And before I knew it, Squire was finally complete. I honestly really love the way he turned out, even to this day. Super simple, low poly, an easy shader, yet he had character and allowed me to tinker with new systems and tools without feeling overloaded. I'm really happy I got the project done, and I'm especially happy I was able to dig myself out of that hole, because if you fall away from a project for too long, it can be kind of scary. Like, you start to think, am I gonna come back to it? But luckily we did it, and Squirt only took 14 hours over 5 days. Only. He only took 14 hours over 5 days. And now that means that I have five days left to complete 3 more cats. AKA a deer, a dog, near, Dr. Proper Paws, or study buddy. Azir is a scribe because he is with me, literally, no joke, every single time I'm working, watching, learning, and uploading everything he sees into the Azir cloud. So I sketched the little chonker and I pulled him into Blender. When I sketched Azir, I was focused really on just doing the same thing I did last time in order to just hone in on the skills I already had, as well as, save some of the precious time that I had left. So the body was basically the same. The sash and the Scrotum. Those things were basically modeled the same as the belt was for Squirt. Really, the only new thing about this project was this time I gave him a tail, which worked just like the pipe from the Japanese house. And also his robe has these little dangly parts, which really I just tugged on with the sculpting tool. No big deal. I tried to make the scroll using the screw modifier, but that was just not going as planned. Some more modeling, some more shading, and some more greasing, and before I knew it, in just 2 days, Azir was complete. I was really getting the hang of this modeling workflow, and I was actually starting to feel kind of confident that maybe I could complete 2 more cats in just 3 days. Actually, at this rate of improvement, that should be no problem. Junie the Mage. Junie, aka Junebug, Juniper Titmouse, Junie Woony, Junus Punis, Junus Woonus is the cutest to ever do this, and she never even knew this. I honestly don't often see Junie. Junie is generally hiding, and the few moments she's out, she's got her tail dragging behind her as unconfidently low as possible, skeptical of all life forms around her. Eye contact is a definite no-go. Her interactions with other kitties is generally hostile, and the only time you really see her willing to interact with anything or anyone at all is my wife. But my wife has that effect on everyone, so that doesn't really count. Junie was originally designed as a witch, based on the fact that she's the only cat that is grumpy often enough to be captured on camera hissing not one, but multiple times. But seeing as how she's my wife's favorite little cat, she was very involved in the process.
She's got to have cute eyes. I don't like this face, lol. She's not as feminine as I'd hoped. Maybe more purples and pinks instead of green and gray. Like when I think witchy, I feel like her outfit doesn't really The shoulder pads are bulky, makes her look more manly. Maybe a cape?
I didn't make changes to any of the sketches before this point. I'm trying to let go of my perfectionism. But this sketch was altered 13 times. And over the course of all 13 design alterations, Junie was turned from a witch all the way to a cute little princess. And even that last design was not cute enough.
Yeah, she's just not as cute as I'd hoped.
I was hoping to have all of Junie done within a day and a half, but with my wife being so involved, the quality demand increased dramatically, and the timeline was starting to get razor thin. But at the end of the 13th edit, it had been nearly 4 hours of just sketching, and I needed to move on. Now, I could have just done Junie the same way I did all the other cats, but we all know no problems is no fun. And seeing as how all of a sudden I had someone monitoring my every single move regarding Junie, this had to be my absolute best work. I started out completely freestyling her body, and she ended up looking like a 1980s diner salt shaker. So I went back to my boy LaCruzo's channel and I looked at how he modeled his characters. This is not a cat, but the body's topology is so clean, and I figured he's helped me so much before in the past, so maybe he could help dig me out of this hole once again. And yeah, in the beginning it was somewhat useful, but then he got into UV unwrapping. I checked the out. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. This was just way over my head, man. And I definitely did not have time to be learning this right now. So with some more digging around, I found a video by Joey Carlino, and he happened to also be modeling a cat. So his cat's design was much different than what I was used to. Ears attached to the head. But this tutorial gave me examples of how I could create a more interesting face, and ears designed with the insert tool. Her hat was super simple, and I just used the bowl tool from the robot tutorial in order to make the holes for her ears. Joey also taught me how to make clothing separate from the body. Junie ended up having this skeletal system underneath her clothing, made from skin, which at the time I was hoping the skeletal system would help her make look less like a salt shaker. In the end, I have no idea if that really did anything. However, I do think this is a better way of making characters because it helps the character be ready for the rigging process. And learning different ways of doing the same thing may seem like a waste of time at first, but when you have multiple perspectives on the same problem, it's really good insight of how to build interesting, good-looking characters. The clothing was by far the most complicated part of the whole process. To a seasoned expert, this is likely nothing compared to some other techniques. But for a beginner, having multiple layers of bones, a robe, a belt, a harness of sorts, varying widths of arm sleeves as well as shoulder pads was a huge step up in difficulty compared to the last two models I made. And when I say huge step up in difficulty, I mean it. I tried my absolute hardest to complete her on the final day.
I've been awake for 22 hours. And I'm still not done with this frickin' cat, dude. It's taking forever. I think just on this one cat alone, I've probably spent over collectively 24 hours. Not today, but over a span of several days. Which is insane.
On the final day, I worked on Junie for 21 hours straight.
Oh, man. I've been awake for 23 hours. And I want to keep going, but my brain just isn't working anymore. I'm just not making any progress. I've been staring at Blender for an hour and nothing's really happening. As much as I want things to happen, nothing's really happening.
But sadly, I just couldn't finish her within the 30-day limitations that I originally set. But that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna finish. Before I decided to take on the final Donnie challenge, I finished up the last bits of Junie. She needed her little fairy friend, her trinkets, potion, and a wand, as well as some coloring and shading and grease pencil lines, which altogether took about another 2 hours. But by the end, Junie the Mage was, in fact, my favorite project over the 31 days that I worked in Blender. Now, I wanted to model my last cat, Seabass, so badly, but this project was just already taking way too long, and I guess that means we might just have to return to Blender in the future. And now, there is only one final thing we need to do to see how far we've really come without any time extensions or tutorials to save me. I had one more Donnie challenge. wireless headphones are dead, so today, tethered. Things are dirty, man. Let's fucking get it. I can do this. I can do this. I don't know how well I can do this, but I'll tell you one thing. Today, we will have more than a foot. Start the clock. Let's go. We do not have beats in here. This is very important use of time. Studio Ghibli, guide me. We're scaling from the bottom. You know what? I think this will be a good use of time. What the I have been trying to just let the Donnie challenges speak for themselves, but during this last challenge, I went dead silent for pretty much the entire hour. That was the first time I looked at the clock. It's safe to say that I was giving this challenge everything that I possibly had. I was dialed in. Legitimately, I don't know if I've ever been in a higher state of flow than this. Up to this point, I basically had no troubles at all, really. The body was coming together extremely smooth, and a large part of that was due to the reference pictures I took in the beginning. Okay, we gotta move on. We gotta texture this thing. I know I just said I should texture this, but I was having an issue where the seams in the middle of my model weren't really lining up. However, it didn't take me too long to get back on track. Also go to shading. It's gotta be an Eevee. Everything was just flowing together so smoothly. I was even diagnosing issues I was having in real time without using the internet whatsoever. Why isn't the front moving? These aren't connected. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. During the 140 hours leading up to this moment, I was constantly afraid I'd reach this point and fumble. But in this moment, I realized all of my hard work had paid off. And we are done. 3 o'clock. Time. Let's fucking go, dude. Let's go. We didn't get the screw in his mouth. Oh, holy sh! Have we improved. We just did that in an hour. The model looks good, dude. What? I'm so proud of myself, man. I've come such a freaking long way. I just did that in an hour. A month ago, I had never even opened the freaking program. And I just created a stylized version of something on my desk relatively accurately in 1 hour. 20 days ago, I couldn't even make a foot. What the? Let's go. Let's go. This is a completely overdone cliche, but considering this video is the length of a feature film, if you watched this far, thank you very much for watching. I know I said I spent 140 hours in Blender during the filming process of this video, which is a lot, but that is nothing in comparison to the amount of time I spent editing this video. I've never edited a video this long, and I didn't plan on the video being this long, but it was really difficult to understand how to edit a video that has multiple camera angles and screen recordings to choose from and hundreds of hours of them. Not just from a decision-making standpoint of, what do I cut and what do I keep? Not just from a workflow perspective. What do you do first when there's so much to do? But the primary challenge of this video was actually from a technical perspective. Videos this large become extremely bloated, laggy, and messy. Additionally, at the start of this video, I was editing on the Adobe suite, And as much as I don't like Adobe, I had spent years learning it, and I was comfortable with it. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on Adobe. I have so much I could say about that company that I could probably make a whole video on its own just about them. And maybe I will. But at the start of the Blender project, Adobe made a change to one of their policies. It did something like allowed Adobe to use your content to train their AI. I think since then they've walked it back, and at the time it wasn't the biggest deal in the world, but for me, it was the final straw. I took a look at my channel and I said, you know what? If there's ever gonna be a time where I feel comfortable switching, it might as well be when I have nothing to lose. So I swapped. Not just my editor, but every single tool I use. I was using the entirety of the Adobe suite. So at the start of the edit, I just have this massive amount of footage, orders of magnitude larger than any other project I've ever worked on, inside of an editor that I have no idea how to use, and a long line of other software that's waiting to be learned that support my process. This was way more stressful than learning Blender. This video took me over 1,000 hours to edit. I don't think I'm the best YouTuber on the platform. Clearly, I have 2 videos on this channel, but I'm genuinely trying to make unique, interesting, and authentic content. Now, I will get faster at this as time goes on, and my long-term goal is to get to a point where I'm uploading once per month. I know that upload frequency is not the meta on YouTube. I know it's not gonna make my channel grow as fast as some other channels, but I didn't start YouTube to do things the way that everyone else does them. That's likely a little bit of hubris, and it wouldn't be the first time for me. But I enjoy learning new things and pushing myself in a non-superficial way, in a non-YouTubified way, in a practical way, a useful way, where I can take those skills and I can improve the channel with them. With that being said, this method of creating content isn't meta for a reason. One of the requirements for getting monetized on YouTube is uploading 3 videos in 90 days. I'll get there, eventually, but I have no idea how long it'll take me to get to that speed in my process. This whole thing is still new to me, but I love doing it, and I really need your help to continue. If you find my content interesting and want to help me make more of it, please consider supporting me on Patreon. By subbing on Patreon, you'll also get access to a Discord that I'm very active in, with a lovely community of other people who enjoy learning new things as well. The link is in the description. I'm kinda capable. Thank you for watching.
We did it. Woohoo. We're done.